Hello, this is Lindsay with Art of Enough, and the last video I did, I had had a rough day, and I discussed the work that I had done with Landmark and how that impacted my life with my daughter. And today, which is a good day, I am going to talk about the romance. So, I'm going to start right from the beginning. So, I wasn't allowed to date until I was 15. And I was a good girl. I listened. And at 15, I had a guy call my house, and my dad answered the phone and held the phone and was like, "You are forbidden to date with him." So, hello, new boyfriend that I don't even care for. And I ended up dating him for like 3 months, 4 months. Nothing really. First boyfriend, got that taken care of. He was older, little aggressive, wanting sexual activity, and I wasn't there, and I was just like, eh. So I ended up breaking up with him during 90210, during the commercials of 90210, and then let him go when the show came back on. So it wasn't that big of a deal. And it was the only guy I ever dated that I went to school with, because seeing him afterwards, I was like, ugh, never again. And that's the advice that I've passed down to my kids. I'm like, don't date people you go to school with, because once you break up, you cannot avoid them, and that is awkward. And then I've had a series of boyfriends. I was pretty low key with dating when I was a teenager. My mom and dad, when they did the birds and the bees talk, my dad was like, guys will do anything, say anything to get in your pants. And I was like, thanks, Dad. Being the product of a teenage pregnancy, he probably had some insight there. So, what happened is I had that filter when I was, at parties and listening to, like, I love you. And I was like, you're nice. I'm like, no. And so, honestly, it was quite humorous for me when I was growing up, and just the attention that I did get from guys. I was like, really? Like, do you think that's gonna work? So yeah, I dated a couple guys here and there, and it seemed like one ex introduced me to the next. I had the ex to the next kind of train there. And I, right up until like the end of high school, I had one of my boyfriends. He was so nice. He was a super nice guy, good looking, had a puppy, drove a Jeep with no doors, like cool, everything, no chemistry. So I ended up breaking up with him before grad, and he was like, well, I'll take you so you're not by yourself. And I was like, I'm not by myself. I went to school with these guys since kindergarten, and you're the one that wouldn't know anybody. So thanks, but no thanks. I'll go by myself. And I ended up going with 3 girlfriends, and one of the dads had a dealership, so we got like a brand new Cadillac to drive to grad in, and I had the coolest grad dress. It was black velvet, like a halter, full length black velvet with the slit up the leg, and it was held on by a 3-layer pearl choker. Gorgeous. It was like breakfast at Tiffany's. I bought it in September of the year I was graduating, so I liked it. And I drove the Cadillac, and then when I went to go get out of the car, I split the slit even further up my leg, so it was like a little risque by the time I actually got to the grad. And it was so fun. I had like the funnest time. It was a safe grad, so after like the dinner dance thing, school bus picked us all up, brought us to one of the other graduates had like a barn and a field, and we had a safe grad, so we had like wristbands that associated to the alcohol that our parents bought for us, that they were saying we were allowed to drink. It was good. It was a fun time. And I remember getting a drive home from the RCMP, and I was in the front seat, and there was like 3 guys in the back, and we were drunk, and like I'm sure the RCMP was just like, oh my God, and we're all talking. I remember not being able to see. I was like, everything was so blurry. I was like looking out the windshield going like, I can't see. It was probably like 6 a.m. And then I remember my mom's like, what did you do last night? And I was like, I'm pretty sure you knew I was drinking because you bought it. Like, and she was like, why is your clothes in the front yard? And I'm like, pardon? So I don't know who I drove home with. And I don't know if they were there, but I apparently stripped down as I got to the house. And so my pants and shirt and everything was just out in the front lawn. Oops. Little mystery. Don't know if anybody that was at my grad that could have been in the RCMP car with me. Let me know. And then, so I graduate. It's the summer. And in Winnipeg, we have a thing similar to the Stampede. I'm in Airdrie, just north of Calgary. And so the Stampedes are like cowboy fair thing, which is awesome. And in Winnipeg, it's called the Red River X, which is like same shit, different pile. Just like instead of cowboys, it's ox-driven cart, whatever. So I went with a bunch of girlfriends from high school and we were like on the prowl looking for phone numbers and stuff because hey, we got a summer ahead of us. And we're walking and we go by the ejector seat, which was like the caged seat for two that had the bungee cords and it would eject you into the air. And it was like $100 ride, whatever. My ex-boyfriend was operating it and he was like, I'll let you go for free. And I'm like, no. And my friends were all like, it's $100 ride, go. And I'm like, been there, done that. Nothing's free. I'm out. He's a nice guy. I don't want to hurt him. So I'm like, no. I'm like, you guys go. Like, he's a great guy. Ended up just like saying thank you and walking away. And less than like 100 feet from there, I'm going by the Polar Bear Express ride where it like goes backwards and it's like this caterpillar type ride where you're going backwards and there's like a DJ and they're playing like Aerosmith music, like super loud. And then the operator DJ guy is like, do you want to go faster? And it just like everything like intensifies and they do go faster. And I remember the noise and I'm walking by and I locked eyes with the most beautiful hazel green eyes I'd ever seen. And if you have kids and you've seen Transylvania Inn, or Hotel Transylvania, anyways, they zing. I'm like, this is the human version of a zing. It's like you see through each other's eyes and your soul's just like, boom. And the noise, like everything, the noise, the crowd, every sensory thing just melted away. And I just was in the eyes. And I guess we were still walking. And eventually we got to a point where our necks couldn't turn anymore. And I was like the noise and the crowd. And I was just like, whoa, that was one of the most intense moments I've ever experienced. And I'm like, I need to get his number. And they're like, my friends are all like, what does he look like? And I was like, not a clue. Literally did not see his face, just his eyes. So I'm like, so I spent the rest of the night looking around for this mystery guy and never found him. It happened to be the night that Pink Floyd was playing at the Red River X and they had like a laser show and the sound even outside was amazing. So I remember that night like vividly. So go on with my summer, go to Grand Beach and, didn't really make any meaningful connections with any guys. I just had fun with my friends. And my best friend, Lisa, and I at the time, we went to the university to go play pool. And when we're there, I see an XX guy and he looks like shit. He's taking summer. And I was like, yes, always good when you see an ex-boyfriend and he doesn't look so hot. You're like, hey, I'm doing better. Anyways, he's with a friend and his friend he's cute. And I'm like, so we ended up getting a table first. So I said, well, if you guys want to play with us until your table comes up. So we ended up playing together, and we ended up like playing a couple games, and I was like, you guys keep the table. We're going to go to the arcade. So they stayed, they played a game or something while we went to the arcade. And then I meet up with this creepy Asian guy that had been kind of following me around every time I go to the arcade. And they had gotten the new game where it was like 4 motorcycles, and it's like, you have to do the lean for the screen, yada yada, and you race the people that are playing. And he's like, do you want to play? And I was like, actually, I do. So Lisa and I and this Asian guy, and then the game's done, and my ex's friend, he comes and he's like, oh, so we all put our money in. We got 4 of us in there, and then creepy Asian guy is like, winner gets a kiss. And I was like, I didn't know what to say, and I was just like, So now I'm like, I am playing because I do not want this. So we end up like balls to the wall playing. I am like, no freaking way. Asian dude wins. So it's like awkward because I'm like, I'm not, no. And he recognized that I was uncomfortable, and he kind of went away. I was like, thank God. And then my ex-boyfriend's friend apologized. He goes, sorry, I like tried. I was like, it's all good. All worked out kind of thing. And that was it. And that night in my diary, because I keep my diary, so I read that I predicted that I was going to date the guy, my ex's friend, in a month. Continue on with the summer. I think I had a date with a guy from Sunfest who ended up being the bouncer at the bar that I go to underage because I was tall, and I don't know how I got into the bar, but I did. And so I was going to the bar underage, and I ended up seeing my ex and his friend. And it was one of those, there was chemistry. There was constant catching each other, looking at each other. And he said he was going to buy me a drink. And then it was just like, we kept getting interrupted and pulled away, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of the night, it's like the last couple of slow songs, and he's leaning there. And I turn around and I see him looking at me. And I'm like, gee. So I just like walked up to him, and I was actually annoyed. And I'm like, enough. So I just walked up to him, and I was like, okay, chicken shit, on the dance floor. And the look on his face was kind of like, okay. So we go on the dance floor, and he's like, so do you have a bike? And I'm like, yeah. And he was like, cool. And then we danced. And I'm like, it was funny and cute, and I danced with him. And then he asked me for my phone number, and I said, no, I don't give my phone number out. I never did. And I was like, you're friends with my ex. It's probably a conversation you have to have anyway. So I was like, people that know me. They have my number. Get it from them. So a week goes by and he doesn't call. And I'm like, what the? 2 weeks go by. No call. And meanwhile, I'm driving my best friend, Lisa, nuts. So I was like, son of a... So I'm like, whatever. We're going to Oktoberfest, which is in September. Anyways, I'm like, fine, I'm going to Oktoberfest, and I'm going to get numbers. And I was pissy that this guy didn't call. So lo and behold, we go there, and who's there? And my best friend and his best friend connect, and they're like, okay, they have to connect tonight because he's been driving me nuts and she's been driving me nuts. Like, enough. They have to get together. So our best friends kind of made sure that we spent the evening and we hung out, and we that's where the connection occurred. I have, at Oktoberfest, they did this thing on the stage where they like used an axe and they chopped a piece of wood, and I must have been close to the stage, and I got a piece of wood in my hair, and he pulled it out of my hair, and it was kind of this moment. Anyways, I still have the wood chip. So he walks me to my car, we end up kissing, and I give him my number. So we start dating, and we're dating. It is like, I knew I was going to marry this guy. And it was like kind of like right out of high school. I just met the guy I'm going to marry. And we were so like Twitter pated. And we were like, this is like, we both knew it. We were like, okay, like we either do this or maybe we take a break and come back, because we're both like, he was in second year. I was just going into university. And I was like, you know, I like you, and who's to say? So let's just do this. So we ended up becoming an item, where I was like, that was pretty much where I was like, we're either dating or I'm dating other people. And he was like, no, we're dating. So I was like, okay, good. So he lived in residence because his parents were out of town, and his grandma got him a place at university, and he had a meal plan. I didn't. And so we shared a 12-inch sub a lot of the days. And it was really sweet. Like, so I remember I was leaving his resident room, and I had a hat on, and I just turned my head and I said, okay, bye. And I went to go leave, and he went, oh, you're her. And I was like, sure am. What do you mean? And he's like, you're her. And he described the night at the X beside the Polar Bear Express, down to the song that was playing. And I was like, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, you have hazel green eyes. And I was like, holy. We both kind of were like, okay, this is okay. So I was like, wow, that is amazing. I didn't even know he was him, and he didn't know I was her. And yet it, things came together. So I remember that week we went to the bar, and all of our friends are there. And I guess Dan had told his friends, I was that girl, and I told my friends that he was that guy. And his best friend came to me and said, he said he was going to marry that girl, the one at the X. And I was like, and meanwhile, Dan's like, shut the hell up. So lo and behold, we were together for like 7 years before we got engaged, because we said, we'll get married when we're adults. Who knew it was going to take that long? But we seriously weren't even adults then. He ended up proposing the day that he got his offer for the Calgary Fire Department. He was like, let's go camping, and on the shores of the campground right outside of Canmore, he asked me to marry him. So yeah, and then we were married for years, like 7 years again, before we even had kids. Not necessarily all by choice. We kind of had about 4 years of like fertility issues where I didn't actually want kids for a while. I was like, I'm good. And then, I don't know, 28, I was like, maybe. And then we tried, and I made the decision that we weren't going to go for fertility treatment. I was like, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And if it's not, it's not. Like, I can make peace with that. And I mourned every month when I got my period, and I was just like, so anyways, I ended up, because I played volleyball, I ended up hurting my shoulder, and I went and got acupuncture. And she's like, what other health concerns? And I said, well, actually, I've been trying to get pregnant for like a couple of years now. She's like, okay, I'll throw a couple in. Okay. So had that treatment started in May. And I believe we were pregnant by September or October. Funny thing is, the day Dan had actually applied to Kelowna, he'd been on the job, but we thought, what about Kelowna? And he actually got the letter saying, hey, we want you, we'll accept you into Kelowna, the same day we found out we were expecting. And we were like, that changes things. So we ended up staying. So our family started in Calgary. We had a boy in 2009. And I was like, I worked at WestJet for about 7 years. And it was when that year was coming up and I was having to go back, I was like, I've worked so hard to have him. and doing the math on babysitter or, daycare and what I would actually take home after that, I was like, oh my God, like I'm paying that much for a stranger to take care of my kid after I've done, no, I was like, so I did this proposal for job share. It didn't go through. So I was like, fine. Ended up staying home. I was like, no, let's make this happen so that I can stay home with the kids. And so we did. And lo and behold, 2 months later, I'm pregnant for a second time. I was like, ooh, who knew? So I was pregnant, and I was like 9 weeks pregnant when my dad had a sudden accidental death, and I had to deliver his eulogy. And that's almost, I think I announced I was actually pregnant at the funeral. I don't even know if that was planned or if it was just like part of the story. So anyways, yeah. So our family grew in 2011 to 2, and it was amazing because when I had my first one, it was like hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of pushing. And then I get him, and as soon as they put him on me, I was like, I want another one. My husband's like, for real? I'm like, yep, just knew it. And then I had my daughter, and naturally, and it was a gong show, and they put her on me. And I looked at my husband and I was like, and done. And he's like, real? And I was like, yep, I'm good. Like, this is, our family's complete. It's like, I just knew it. So our family was complete. I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was overwhelmed, bereaved, and yeah, it was a lot going on there. So I'll leave that for maybe the next video. But yeah, it was as unromantic as my husband is, we have one of the most romantic beginnings, and I can feed off of that for a long time. I have. Anyways, take care, guys. Bye.